Crowned with Oil by Brother George H. Warnock. Chapter 3. Exhaustless oil, but none to spare. And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring thee pure oil, olive beaten for the light, to cause a lamp to burn always. Exodus 27:20. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps, and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And the 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in the vessels with the lamps. Matthew 25:13. Is this for us? I'm not going to get into the mechanics of the parable. Are these virgins part of the bridesmaids or part of the bride, and so forth? It's enough that Jesus said it was for us. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. Matthew 25:14. God forbid that our concept of walking with God should degenerate into a system of theology where we learn how to pigeonhole truth and seem too devastating for our hearts to bear. Theology has a tendency to take the teeth out of the truth under the false notion that if it hurts, it can be Christ-like. Truth is devastating to the natural man. And until we come to the place of the total devastation, as far as the natural man is concerned, we're not going to come into the beauty of a true spiritual life. We need to pay heed to this parable if we are truly desirous of being prepared with oil for the day of darkness that lies ahead. There is coming a day of test and the trial for God's people. In fact, we might see it at the door, a day in which God is going to expose the hearts and reveal the nakedness and poverty of this Laodicean church that profess to be rich to fill with oil and to have a need for nothing. It's a day when our confidence in experiences, in blessings, in gifts, in ministries, in charismatic structures, in charismatic methodology is going to fail. The people of God generally found it easy enough this day to come up with a solution. They have access to a vast library of success books, and seminaries, and workshops, and promise of personal spiritual enlargement, as well as the enhancement of church life and church growth. The criterion seems to be, does it work? If it works, at least it seems to perform the desires of our hearts, that it seems to be all that matters. Whether or not is God's way and will bring forth God's objective doesn't seem to matter. The hour of trial. The Lord has warned us that there is coming another trial upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Revelation 3:10. There will be overcomers in that hour. And God has shown us the way to overcome in the day of famine, in the day of darkness and the gloominess, in the day when sends the fire into the earth. It's going to be a day when the labor of all shall fail, a day when there shall be no fruit on the vine, and it's going to be a day of unveiling of one's spiritual worth, or of his bankruptcy. Oh, then God might help us to declare bankruptcy now, as he reveals to us a pile of debts that we have no will of paying. If we declare bankruptcy now, we'll be able to buy gold tried in the fire, and white raiment to clothe ourselves, and eye salve to anoint our eyes, that we might see. The wise and the foolish were all virgins. They all had lamps. They all took the lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. If they were the bridesmaids, you can be sure that the bride would require even greater diligence for her preparation than would the bridesmaids themselves. All the lamps were burning with oil. But at the midnight hours they did not arise to light the lamps, they rose up and trimmed them. They came to this place of wedding, and of sleeping with the lamps that were burning, but as they slept the lamps grew dim. The light from the lamps of the foolish appeared to be equally illuminating as the light from the lamps of the wise. But there was one difference, and this was only revealed in the midnight hour. The wise had brought along with them a supply of oil in the vessels, while the foolish were trusting that the lamps they had would keep burning without any extra supply. Is oil in the lamps sufficient? Are you trusting in the lamp you have, the structure you are sheltered under, the New Testament church order you have found refuge in? Or is it your confidence in a personal, abiding union with Christ Himself? Are you trusting the fact that you have received His Spirit and have gifts of the Spirit that have certain manifestations of blessing the power in your life? Or are you pursuing a life of total abiding union with the Lord? The oil in your lamp will soon burn out. There's no blessing, no experience, no gift, no ministry, no church structure that will keep your lamp burning in the hour of trial. Have the right arrangement, the proper New Testament pattern, the right kind of structure or covering, the right order, this will not suffice. Having His gifts, His blessing, His ministries, these in themselves will not do. We have the purpose, a word needful purpose, that is to bring us into this relationship we're talking about, to cause us to grow up into Christ, even unto the fullness of God. Ephesians 3:18-19 and 4:13. But if this is not the vision and the hope, if this is not the objective of our many gathering together in His name, sooner or later the lamp will run dry, the light will grow dim and go out. There's only one way that we can maintain the oil, that will maintain the light, that will maintain the vision of His appearing and prepare us for that appearing, and that is by coming into union with Him, who is the source. It's not some new doctrine that you can take or leave. It's God's provision for His people in the hour of famine and for darkness. You must begin to walk in identification and union with Christ, in His cross as well as in His life. Only in Him is there an unfailing supply. It's not something you automatically have when you receive His Spirit to partake His gifts and the blessings. Rather, these gifts and blessings are intended to help us along the way as we seek to follow on to appropriate the death of the cross and the resurrection life that these enabling gifts and the ministries will lead us into. But the subtle teaching emanating from the church in this hour that goes something like this: forget those far out things, get back to basics, get the gift of Spirit and start working for God. The subtlety of it all lies in the fact that God has given precious gifts of His Spirit as a means and not the end. Gifts of power to help, to encourage, and strengthen us in our many difficulties, and words of wisdom, knowledge, of faith to lead us into abiding fullness with Him. But as a man has always prone to do, we set apart for the whole, the means for the ultimate end. We set scaffolding for the building. We glory in the beautiful flowers of the tree and care less if there be any apples. We admire the living green of the wheat fields, and do not see the value of the ripening grain and the threshing and the blowing away of the chaff. Union with the source. We have the unstarted need in the vision that God gave to Zechariah at the time of the building of the second temple. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I said, I have looked, and behold, a candlestick all of gold, with a bowl upon the top of it. There 7 lamps thereon, and 7 pipes to the 7 lamps which are upon the top thereof, and 2 olive trees by it, one upon the right side of the bowl, and the other upon the left side thereof. Zechariah 4:2-3. So this is the candlestick, but a candlestick that was a union with the exhaustless supply of oil. Oil from the olive trees, oil from the fountainhead to the source. God showed Zechariah that the olive trees were sons of oil, the anointed ones. It was Christ, but it was Christ's union with his many brethren. The word, the sons of oil, sons of the anointing, and through them there was an exhaustless supply of oil for the lamp of God. For the lamp of God. God has endowed the true servants with the spiritual gifts and ministries. But it does not stop there. There are the people who, because of his enabling power, have experienced his way and are walking in his way and are pointing others to his way. There's an exhaustless supply of oil, but you must buy it for yourself. You can't borrow from your leader, from your pastor, from your teachers, and when you find it, or rather him, you cannot sell it to anyone else. You cannot delegate to others. You cannot give it away, much as you would like to share it with others. We must walk with him and learn his ways, hearing his voice and doing his will. Association with God's anointed ones is not sufficient. And the minister out from the heart of God, they will seek to bring you into union with Christ. For they know that you will not be prepared to go forth in the midnight hour to meet the bridegroom, except as you come into vital union with him who is the source. You have to buy this oil for yourself if you're going to have it. You're going to have to buy it now. The midnight hour and the midnight hour, which is over close at hand, you will not have the opportunity to buy it. What is the price? What is the price? That would be difficult for me to say explicitly, but the Lord will show you if you truly want to know and pay the price. The price tag is not according to the value of the oil, for this unfailing supply is really without money and without price. But there is a price tag, and you will have to discover that for yourself. There will be some paltry, earthly thing that blind your eye to the true riches. But it will also be some degree of spiritual attainment that you are loath to relinquish in order to have its fullness. It could even be a ministry, great or small, full of truth, full of oil, full of blessing, but which will go out in the darkness of the night if you do not surrender it all to him for the price of the high calling of knowing him. The price tag merely reveals the smallness of your own heart and the struggle one has to go through in order that he might receive the riches of his grace. It could be anything, but it has to be everything. For it is only in forsaking all that we have we might receive all of him. This blessing, the gifts and enablements are only manifestations of him. They are good, but they are only intended to lead us unto Him, unto His fullness, unto the fountainhead and the source. If they fail to do this, they will soon wither and die. Search us, O Lord, and know us. Trial us and know our thoughts. Continue sending forth your word to our hearts, that your people might hastily sell that they have to buy this precious, exhaustive supply of oil. But truly, the midnight hour is nigh at hand, and we're sure that we must go forth to meet the bridegroom under the illumination and anointing and guidance of your Spirit. When Jesus came the first time, it was those who had an abundance of scriptural knowledge of his coming who missed him, whereas the humble and the lowly, whose hearts were prepared, saw him. Can we not learn from what happened at the first coming as we anticipate his second coming? It's evident that there are going to be some very dramatic, sudden, outward manifestations at his second coming. But it's also evident that there will be aspects of his appearing that only those who have an eye to see and an ear to hear will recognize. For saw the Lord in such a brightness as glory, the blinded eyes. But his companions who traveled with him saw nothing, and only heard minister sounds. Yet it all happened at the same moment and in the same place. I know this was not at Christ's first coming, neither was it at his second coming, but Paul saw him. It was appearing the Lord that was just as real as it appearing to Peter and James, John, and the other disciples. 1 Corinthians 15, 5-8. The 5 virgins saw him and walked into his presence, while the foolish virgins saw him not. He comes as a thief in the night to those who are not walking in the light, but in the brightness of the glory, those who are. 1 Thessalonians 5, 2 and 4. These things may be very disturbing to the theological mind, because theology must be able to so arrange the scriptures that it can precisely set forth the manner of the coming of the Lord. But God does not reveal himself in this way. In all of the parables, in all the exhortations in the epistle, there is both encouragement and warning to God's people that he may appear any moment, and that those who see him when he appears are those who are looking for him, waiting for him, and expecting him. You can see Matthew 24:44, 25:10, verses 1:10, Titus 2:13, Hebrews 9:28, 1 John 3:2 and 3. But it does not mean that everything pertaining to the second coming must take place in that single moment in time. It took 33 years for the prophecies that relate to the first coming to be fulfilled. And we have no way of knowing how many years may take for all aspects of the second coming to be fully revealed. But let us remember that those who earnestly looking for him and whose hearts were prepared saw him early in the day of his appearing, simply because they were walking with God, and eye to see what the world could not see. We can't miss him if we are constantly looking for him, and God forbid that any of us should be found in the company of those who are going about lecturing from beautiful charts of the second coming, while the bride of Christ is feasting with her Lord at the marriage supper of the Lamb.